everyone, Sandra here, and welcome back to our Being Prepared series. This is a series of just very basic skills and things you may need if you find yourself in a power outage or some sort of natural disaster. And this one is going to be about communication and hygiene. I'll put a link in the description box and maybe up in a card to the other videos in the series. But anyhow, let's get started. I want to start it first with your cell phone. And I had read on an insurance site of all places about staying in communication when there's a natural disaster. And they were talking about a very smart lady down in Houston, and a hurricane was coming and she knew it was highly likely that she would flood. So what she did was, first of all, she designated another family member that lived in Chicago as the information bearer, so to speak. So she would contact her, and then all other family members would contact that Chicago relative to get information on the one down in Houston. That way, too many people aren't trying to call the one that's phone, you know, may have limited juice in it. So that way, when she had any kind of information, she would text her relative in Chicago, everybody else would text Chicago, and they would go back and forth that way. When there's a power outage, and possibly cell phone service may not be the greatest, you're better off texting rather than calling. The lines for calling will get blocked before the texting will. Also, videos and pictures go on that same line as talking, and so that could jam things up, and it will drain your battery quicker and use up your data. So you're better off not doing that. If you can get away with it, just text. And if you know a storm or something like that is coming, make sure you charge up your phone ahead of time. They also make these little portable battery packs. If you happen to have one of those, charge that as well. I don't have one here. I have one up at the cabin. A lot of good it does me, right? I'll put a link for that down in the description too, in case that's something you're interested in. I know my one son carries it with him a lot because he's forever on his phone. But anyhow, so that's a good backup for that. But the other thing is she put her phone in a baggie, because she knew there was going to be a lot of water, and, you know, dropping your phone in flood water, yeah, not a good idea. And if it's raining, and just, so it's very smart of her to put it in a baggie. And I want to point out, use a baggie that you have to pinch close like this. My own personal experience has always been that these type of baggies work better to keep liquids in or out. The zipper type ones, they're not nearly as good for this purpose, at least. So then, and they're thin enough so you can still hit your buttons and whatever through the baggie. You'll still be able to use it. Okay, the next thing I want to cover is a radio. Now, most people know you should have some sort of weather radio, and, you know, extra batteries on hand for radios, flashlights, stuff like that. This goes a little bit further. Yes, it is a weather radio, but it also has a little flashlight on it, and it's crank. So you can crank this. I think you crank it for about 2 minutes, and that will give you about 30 minutes of radio play. Radios are very important because when your power is out, a lot of times internet, if you can get it on your phone, is spotty. You don't want to waste your phone batteries. This is what you need to do. You need to have one of these because it will give you a wealth of information on what's going on in your community. It can let you know maybe which roads are impassable, or when emergency services may be getting to your area or a loved one's area. So It will also let you know if more bad weather is coming your way, or hopefully it's letting up. So you really need to have one of these on hand. Some of the newer ones, they're a little bit more pricey, but they also have a jack for your phone. I do have one like that, but I have found smartphones use so much energy that most of the time you'd be cranking a really long time and you wouldn't charge up your phone a whole lot. So again, probably that battery pack thing would be better for that than a crank radio. And these come in all different price ranges. This is a fairly inexpensive one, and in fact when I bought it, I bought 3 of them because my 2 youngest sons aren't necessarily the greatest with preparing for themselves, so I bought each of them one as well. I don't know if they've ever used it, but I actually use this really frequently because I like to take the radio along with me wherever I may go, and it's just convenient. I have batteries in it right now, but I have tried it with the crank and it works fine. So go ahead and pick yourself up one of these if you don't already have one. One other thing I wanted to touch on was walkie-talkies. Somebody asked me about that. Now I have 2 sets of walkie-talkies. I've never really had to use them, and I haven't been in a really bad disaster situation, thank God. But I feel like if you already own them, it's good to have them and make sure to charge them up ahead of time. I'm not so sure I would buy them, simply because they don't reach long distances, and most people do have cell phones these days. They would be nice, you know, if you had them ahead of time. If you wanted to keep in touch, say, with an elderly neighbor or relative that's, you know, fairly close. A lot of walkie-talkies will tell you that they reach for miles, and that's usually not the case unless your miles are completely flat with no trees or buildings or anything in the way. Walkie-talkies, though, can sometimes get you through to truckers, so you might want to keep that in mind. Kind of like a really weak CB, I would look at it that way. If you're a ham radio operator, you know, that would be great too, but most of us aren't. So yeah, crank radio, cell phone in a baggie, perhaps an extra cell phone battery bank thing, and possibly walkie-talkies. Okay, so moving on, now I want to go into hygiene. You know, if you're in a power outage, very likely you are going to be limited on your water. And if you are, it's not very fun being dirty. Feeling dirty is yucky, and none of us likes it. So a few of the things I have figured out over the years, there was a couple times we were without water over the weekend. It wasn't a natural disaster, but it was a problem. The one time it was our well pump, and it's just whatever. But wipes, baby wipes in particular. These are hand and face wipes, but baby wipes I feel are the best because they're bigger and you get more in a pack. They do make body wipes though, I've seen that, but they're more expensive. So I would get a few packs of baby wipes and always keep them on hand. Talk to your relatives and friends, anybody who has kids, and ask them what their recommendation is, what their favorite baby wipes are. I happen to know from my daughters-in-law, they don't like Huggies. They said the Huggies wipes tend to be more dry. But they all seem to like Wally Worlds and other store brands. So yeah, make sure you talk to friends and relatives and all of that, and keep some baby wipes on hand, because you could take a real quick, easy bird bath with one of those, and you feel so much better if your face and hands are clean for sure. For sure. I know I do. Then I have this. Some of you won't care. Some of you really will. This is a dry shampoo. If your hair feels gross, you feel gross. And all you have to do with this, spray it on, let it sit a little while, work it in, you'll feel better, your hair will look better. That's all you need to know about that. This here, baby powder or body powder, this to me really does help me feel better, especially if it's warm outside, warm and humid. This will help dry you up fairly quick, and it feels good and will put you in a better mood for sure. And yeah, you can use it on adults and kids. And one last thing about personal hygiene, mouthwash. Now, you may not even, be a mouthwash user. Not everybody is. It's not that big of a deal if you are or not. But I keep it on hand because if you are limited in your water, now you will always have some water in your water heater, and maybe you've got storage water and whatever, but you don't want to use that if you can help it for your hygiene or cleaning, stuff like that. So you can use mouthwash in place of water when you're brushing your teeth. So go ahead and get your toothpaste and then just rinse with this, and your mouth will thank you for it. And to go along with your personal hygiene, make sure you have some clean clothes set aside. Just get yourself a plastic tote or bin, and for every member of your family, put in a clean pair of jeans, maybe a t-shirt or two or a hoodie, socks and underwear. You just feel so much better if you have something clean and dry to put on. Okay, last but definitely not least is keeping your surroundings clean. Make sure you have plenty of garbage bags on hand and cleaning stuff that doesn't require water. So whether that's paper towel or old rags, napkins, whatever, have those on hand, and some cleaning solutions. In here is vinegar and water. You can use whatever you like. But a lot of the times after a disaster, the thing that hurts people most is illness and disease. And that's because we don't have our fresh, clean water, and our normal hygiene practices. So you have to be really vigilant about keeping your surroundings clean. You don't want any critters coming around. You want to keep everybody as healthy as possible. And while I normally don't recommend sprays like this, these disinfectant sprays, they can really be beneficial, during a time of disaster for killing off different types of germs that you normally wouldn't have in your house. Now, everything I've been talking about is if you are at home. If there's a natural disaster and you are still in your home or someone's home, it's good to have all of these things on hand. If you have to evacuate, that's a whole nother story, and you might want to put something like these items in your go bag, like the wipes, for instance. Maybe powder's not a big deal, or maybe you could get a trial size of that. The same thing with the mouthwash or whatever. Like I said in a previous video, you really need to modify these things according to you and your family's needs. Everybody's needs are going to be a little bit different, so you need to think about what would be good for you. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it. Thumbs up, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But more importantly, if you can, please leave a comment below. Your opinions, your ideas, your experiences would really be helpful, not only to me, but to the whole community. It's great to learn from each other. You know that I say that a lot, but it really is true. So anyhow, it was nice talking to you, and you take care.